So I needed a video this week, and between slight burnout and the fact that my Switch Pro controller is dying, I haven't really been able to get enough hours to be able to properly talk about the new kits from the newest season. So instead I'm gonna do what all YouTubers do when they're short on ideas: steal from better creators and make shit up. And therefore, I'm gonna make up some kits, specifically for the 7 new weapons in Splatoon 3. The splitanas, the stringers, and the 3 weapons we got back in Drizzle season. I'm not the first to make up kits for weapons, I surely won't be the last, but at least I came up with these on my own, so if they're the same as someone else's ideas, well, that's just a coincidence. And lastly, these aren't meant to be optimal kits for these weapons. I don't think I'm good enough to create those, and also I just would rather create fun kits that have unique playstyles. I think that's a lot more interesting than just giving everything Burst Bomb and Crab Tank, even if pretty much every weapon could do well with that. So with the boring introduction out of the way, let's get into it with our first weapon. And to start things off, we've got a TriStringer kit with Suction Bomb and Booyah Bomb. I originally thought of giving this Splat Bomb and Super Chump, but I found a weapon down the list that I think suits that kit much better. So instead I went with a different version of a similar concept. A weapon that chases enemies out of positions and restrains their movements with explosives. Between the charge shots on the TriStringer, Suction Bombs, which I also chose to give us a stringer with a lethal bomb, and Booyah Bomb, this is a weapon that's going to have various ways of pretty much just encouraging the enemy to not stand in a given place at a given time. Honestly, if there's one problem I see this potentially having is that it's maybe a little too over-specialized. Maybe it just wouldn't get full use out of all the aspects because everything kind of does the same thing. Honestly, without a way to test it, I can only speculate. And that holds true for every other weapon on this list too. Moving on to the other, more infamous stringer, we've got Reflux. For this, I decided to give it Torpedo and Kraken. I feel like Reflux is a really interesting weapon, but the kit we have right now is just not really fun to play and not really healthy for the game. So because of that, I want to give it a kit that can play aggressively, especially because I have seen some very good players using the main weapon rather aggressively. Torpedo is one of my favorite subs, honestly, and here it pulls a lot of duties. Using it as a distraction can work, and it can also potentially do a bit of chip damage to turn a incomplete one-shot into a combo opportunity. Granted, Burst Bomb would probably be better for this last one, but I actually think it might be a little too good, because Burst Bomb can easily deal the 60 damage hit and combo off of even a single of the 3 projectiles hitting while charged. And while Torpedo can do this too, it's a fair bit harder to land the 60 damage hit on Torpedo than with Burst Bomb. As for Kraken, well, this weapon paints for special really well, and I just want to give this thing a more aggressive special that encourages it to actually go in and not just hang back and spam specials. So really anything with much range would be at risk of becoming a problem. That said, I can see there being one issue with this weapon. Mainly, I can see it becoming rather oppressive in Turf War. It's very common in Turf War to see painting weapons like aerosprays just kind of run past enemies to paint their backlines and not even fight, and this weapon could be a bit too good with that, especially with Kraken providing an easy way to deal with it when someone actually does chase you down. It's a minor concern, but I still find that one of the most annoying things in Turf War when I do play it, so that's something to consider. Moving on to splitanas, we've got Wiper with Beacon and Tacticooler. This is probably a pretty weird kit, but I'm honestly pretty happy with how the concept turned out. I actually think Wiper could be made into a very good support weapon with this kit. A fairly common build for Wiper, and one I use thanks to ProShar's videos on the subject, is a quick respawn build. And this kit would serve to capitalize on that to create a support weapon that can also very strongly benefit from its own support. Beacons fit well because after a aggressive play that doesn't pan out, you're gonna be respawning, and having more potential safe spots to super jump to can be extremely useful, while the buffs from Tacticooler pretty much line up with abilities you already want to run on Splatana Wipers. I'm always happy to have have someone provide a tactic cooler, so being able to provide it for itself would not be the worst thing for a Splitana wiper. The big downside on this kit, of course, is that it makes the Splitana wiper purely dependent on its main weapon for combat, but I think it would be a interesting and different option, and I think this really illustrates what I'm trying to go for with this list. This would be an option that provides its own utility while being weaker in some areas than the main weapon, not just the better version of the Splitana wiper. And following up, probably the most serious attempt at a kit that I made on this list is probably the least serious attempt at the kit. A Splitana Stamper equipped with Ink Mine and Ink Storm. This one started with a literal meme idea. What if we had a Splitana with Ink Storm so that we could have a Bury the Light meme? But then as I thought about it, I remembered how easily Stamper could get up to 70 damage, which will become a kill combined with a little over a second in the Ink Storm. And in order to lean into the area denial theme, I decided to give it Ink Mine. Personally, I'm rather fond of the sub-weapon, and even the low end of damage from the Ink Mine deals 35 damage, which is enough for the Stamper's 70 to become a kill once again. Given the surprisingly good range of the weapon class, I think that Ink Mine for area denial would be a pretty good option. So with that done, we are on to the Drizzle Season weapons. And first up is the Splatshot Nova, which I gave what I think is frankly a kit it should have gotten to start with, which is Angle Shooter and Inkjet. Now I know this seems dumb, but hear me out. The kit we've got really is more of a kit for weapons that are already fairly good at slaying enemies. Angle Shooter absolutely needs a buff, not going to deny that. In fact, I'm eventually going to do a video talking about that. But for now, I think it still has some good benefits on this weapon. It deals enough damage to shave the main weapon from a 5-shot to a 3-shot, and it keeps the support theme with its abilities to mark enemies. Not to mention being just a good, more accurate precision long-range attack than the weapon itself. It's still mostly just a worse burst bomb, but it's at least one that works well on this weapon. And as for Inkjet, well, one, there's no other shooter with Inkjet, and I'm a sucker for giving weapons subs or specials that their class doesn't have. But with the subpar performance of the main weapon, I think a special that can be used entirely on its own to go and get kills would be a good option. Plus, between its range and the recall effect, Inkjet does work best on mid-range weapons, and that's what Splatshot Nova is, so it'd fit there. On to more interesting weapons, we've got the big Swig Roller with Burst Bomb and Ultra Stamp. This one's frankly pretty straightforward. It's meant to turn the big Swig Roller from the pure support that it is into a pure aggression roller. Burst Bomb would be a great combo tool here, since the horizontal flick covers a very wide area but can only deal 70 damage, while the vertical flick can one-shot, but only within a certain portion of its very long range. So Burst Bomb would make it both better at accurately hitting enemies in close and at finishing off enemies from afar. Ultra Stamp, meanwhile, is a bit easy to shut down right now, but despite that, I still think it would be a potent fit if they fix that little issue. As a roller, this is a weapon that wants to get in, and Ultra Stamp can absolutely do that, being a very aggressive special that leaves you in a place that you kind of want to be with a roller. And lastly, we have the Snipe Rider, which I decided to give Splat Bomb and Super Chump. This was kind of a hard one because some of the best kits I can imagine for this are already taken by other chargers. For instance, the E-Leader's Ink Mine and Wavebreaker. Snipe Rider could easily combo off of both of those for a 1-2 splat. And the Z plus F splat charger kit would go well on just about any charger. Here I started with the special, choosing Super Chump because it not only deals enough chip damage to combo, but it can make an effective option to keep enemies distracted and allow the Snipe Rider to move up. Plus it also works well for a quick ink refill, which between the Snipe Rider's heavy ink cost and the Splat Bomb this weapon could use. And then I went with a Splat Bomb because combo bombs don't really do anything for this weapon, and it's already got a pretty mediocre deployable sub on its primary kit, so I just wanted to give this as an option to let it be a little bit more aggressive when it doesn't have a charge ready. Not to mention that it would work well as a defensive option to deter attackers when it doesn't have the time to charge up its shots. That said, if they did give this weapon the ability to throw subs without breaking its charge, I would give it a Torpedo instead, because I just think that would make a very good combo option, and we've already established I really like Torpedo. And that's my 7 kit ideas. What do you think of them? Do you like them? Would you use them? Or do you think there's some other kits that could be even more enjoyable on these weapons? Let me know in the comments below, and I will be back with another Splatoon video in 2 weeks, and another random whatever game I feel like talking about in 1 week. Farewell.